I lifted my bride's veil to kiss her, and found my ex-wife looking back at me with tears in her eyes. The church fell silent as I reached trembling hands toward my bride's veil. My heart pounded so loudly, I could barely hear the minister's words. Family and friends leaned forward in anticipation. The woman standing before me was about to become my wife. I had waited years for this moment. Then I lifted the veil, and the world stopped. The face staring back at me was not the woman I had been preparing to marry. It was my ex-wife, Rachel. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she looked into my stunned eyes. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that life can change in a single heartbeat. My name is Nathan Carter, and this happened in a small town outside Nashville, Tennessee. Even now, years later, I struggle to explain how one of the happiest days of my life became the most shocking and ultimately the most meaningful. 5 years earlier, Rachel had walked out of my life. We had been married for 7 years. We weren't perfect, but I believed we were happy. We owned a modest home, spent weekends exploring Tennessee backroads, and dreamed about having children one day. Then, life happened. Stress piled up. Financial struggles arrived. Misunderstandings grew into arguments. The warmth between us slowly turned cold. The worst part wasn't the fighting, it was the silence. 2 people can survive arguments. Silence is what destroys them. Rachel stopped sharing her thoughts. I buried myself in work. Every evening we sat in the same house, feeling miles apart. Eventually, she told me she needed space. A few months later, divorce papers appeared on our kitchen table. I signed them with shaking hands. The day she left, she didn't look back. For years afterward, I carried that pain everywhere. I blamed myself. I blamed her. Some nights I stared at old photographs and wondered how 2 people who once loved each other so deeply could become strangers. Life moved forward anyway. 3 years after the divorce, I met Sarah. Sarah was kind in ways that felt almost unreal. She volunteered at local shelters, remembered everyone's birthdays, and had a way of making people feel seen. She never tried to replace my past. She simply helped me believe there could still be a future. Slowly, I healed. We dated for nearly 2 years before I proposed. When she said yes, it felt like sunlight after a very long storm. The wedding day arrived on a beautiful autumn afternoon. The church was decorated with white roses and golden leaves. Sunlight poured through stained glass windows, painting colorful reflections across the wooden pews. Everything seemed perfect, until that impossible moment, until I lifted the veil. My breath vanished. Standing before me was Rachel, not Sarah Rachel. The church erupted into confused whispers. Guests exchanged bewildered glances. My mother stood up in shock. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then I heard soft sobbing. Rachel's shoulders shook as tears rolled down her face. I couldn't understand what was happening. Had I lost my mind? Was this some kind of cruel joke? Then movement near the front pew caught my attention. Sarah stepped forward. She wasn't wearing a wedding dress. Instead, she stood quietly beside the minister, holding a folded letter in her hands. Her expression was calm, though her eyes glistened with emotion. Suddenly, I realized this had all been planned, every detail, every moment. And I had absolutely no idea why. The minister handed me the letter. My hands trembled as I unfolded it. Inside was a message, written in Sarah's familiar handwriting. She explained that 6 months earlier she had accidentally met Rachel while volunteering at a community food drive. Neither woman knew who the other was at first. But after talking, they eventually discovered their connection to me. What happened next changed everything. Sarah learned that Rachel had been carrying a secret for years, a secret that explained why our marriage had fallen apart. A secret Rachel had never been able to tell me. According to the letter, shortly before our divorce, Rachel had been diagnosed with a serious autoimmune illness. The prognosis at the time was uncertain. Doctors warned her she might face years of treatments and potentially lose the ability to have children. Fear consumed her. Instead of sharing the burden, she pushed me away. She convinced herself I deserved a healthier, happier future. She believed leaving me would spare me from a life filled with hospitals, uncertainty, and heartbreak. So she chose to become the villain in our story. She let me think she stopped loving me. The truth was exactly the opposite. By the time I reached the end of the letter, my vision was blurred with tears. I looked up at Rachel. She nodded through her, crying. The pain in her eyes told me everything words never could. For years I had carried anger toward her. For years she had carried guilt. Neither of us knew the truth. Then I looked toward Sarah. She smiled gently. The final paragraph of her letter nearly broke me. She wrote that after months of conversations with Rachel, she realized something important. Although she loved me deeply, she believed a part of my heart had never truly understood why my first marriage ended. That unanswered question had followed me into every chapter of my life. She didn't want me entering another marriage, carrying old wounds. Today wasn't about choosing between two women. It was about finally finding peace. I could hardly stand. The room felt suspended in time. Rachel slowly stepped forward. For the first time in 5 years, we spoke honestly. There were no accusations, no anger, no blame, only truth. She told me about the endless medical appointments, the fear that had kept her awake at night, the loneliness of making impossible decisions, the regret she felt every day after leaving. I told her how broken I had been, how abandoned I felt, how desperately I had wanted one honest conversation before everything ended. Both of us cried. So did half the church. What happened next surprised everyone, including me. Rachel reached into her purse and removed a small photograph. It showed us on our honeymoon years earlier. The picture was worn from being handled countless times. She admitted she had carried it with her every day since the divorce. Not because she wanted to return to the past, but because she never stopped loving the memories. Then she handed me the photograph, and finally let it go. In that moment, something inside both of us healed. Not because we were getting back together. We weren't. Not because the years of pain disappeared. They didn't. But because forgiveness finally entered the room. The weight we had carried for so long simply lifted. Rachel smiled through her tears, a genuine smile, the kind I hadn't seen in years. Then she turned toward Sarah. The two women embraced. There wasn't jealousy between them. Only respect. Only gratitude. Sarah had given Rachel something she never thought she'd have. A chance to tell the truth. And she had given me something equally precious. Closure. Real closure. The kind most people never receive. A few minutes later, Rachel quietly took her seat among the guests. The church settled. The minister cleared his throat. And then, with tears still drying on my face, I turned toward Sarah. This time when I lifted the veil, the woman beneath it was exactly who I expected. But somehow she was even more beautiful. Not because of how she looked. Because of what she had done. Because of the extraordinary kindness she had shown. Because she understood that real love isn't about possession. It's about healing. It's about wanting the best for someone, even when it's difficult. That day I married Sarah, and Rachel applauded, louder than anyone. As we walked down the aisle together, I glanced back one last time. Rachel stood smiling, not the smile of a woman losing something, the smile of a woman finally finding peace. If this story touched your heart, please leave a comment with the words "Forgiveness sets us free." Your message might inspire someone else who is carrying pain they need to let go of. Years later, life turned out differently than any of us expected. Rachel's health improved dramatically with treatment. She eventually found happiness again and built a beautiful life of her own. Sarah and I welcomed 2 wonderful children into the world. Our families remained connected through friendship and mutual respect. Sometimes the greatest miracle isn't a lost love returning. Sometimes it's understanding why it was lost in the first place. Sometimes healing doesn't mean going backward. It means finally being able to move forward. And whenever I think about that extraordinary day in Tennessee, remember the moment I lifted a bridal veil and found my past staring back at me through tears. What I thought was the end of everything became the beginning of forgiveness. And forgiveness, I learned, is one of the most powerful forms of love a human heart can ever experience. If this story moved you, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in second chances, leave a heartfelt comment, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories that remind us all of the beauty hidden inside forgiveness, hope, and love. The most unforgettable moments in life are often the ones we never see coming.